Escort girls of Reddit, have you ever been caught by the clients? So? How did that go? Got a call on my phone from an unknown number. I was at my laptop. So I typed the number into Google and hit enter. This was years ago before Google started futzing phone searches. And when it didn't load immediately, I went ahead and answered it. Turned out to be a tech from work who needed help accessing one of my systems. I walked him through it. Then turned back to my laptop. The top hit on Google for his phone was a Craigslist ad for gay erotic massage. And it wasn't a wrong number. It had a couple months of ad history, and even though there were no face pics, his unusually hairy arms and a small tattoo were easy to identify. I kept that story to myself for a few years, only relating it after I left the company. I told the story at a bar with some old co-workers, not knowing that this guy's wife was friends with one of them. Anyway, my bad. Sort of the other way round. But I found out the girl I was dating was an escort when she texted me instead of the client. True story. That's part of how I found out my girlfriend was cheating on me. She lived in a gated community, and somehow her instructions in a text to someone else on how to get through the gate and get to visitors pass bled over into a text she sent me. How? I don't know, and when I asked her about it, she denied she sent me that. She lived 42 miles away, so she knew I wouldn't just drop in. One Friday she lied to me about going to a friend's for dinner, and I knew she was lying to me. So I dropped in. It did not go well, but it did scare the shit out of the guy. These are not times I care to remember nor rehash in my mind. But 2 years later it still stays in the forefront of my mind. I can't seem to shake it. Edit. 18 hours in, and this has just become my top comment. Interesting how that happens. 2 wives of clients knew about me because their husbands flat out told them, under the sad misapprehension that once they were divorced, we'd be free to have an unpaid relationship. The first time, I was flattered, conflicted, and saddened. The second time, I was pissed off. You threw your happy home life away because you just hoped some college girl was going to ride off into the sunset with you? Now I only do 2 hours maximum sessions, because I've found that clients who book overnights or full day sessions are the most likely to lose their grasp on the reality of the situation. Somehow, sleeping next to someone is more intimate than f***ing them. And it makes these men confused. Somehow, sleeping next to someone is more intimate than f***ing them. And it makes these men confused. Just chiming in to say, as a guy, I definitely agree with this. At this strip club I worked at, one of the dancers had a daddy that came in legit almost every day. He actually was good looking and charming. His wife saw his car in the lot and pulled in and tore past the bouncers and ran into the VIP area. They were back there. It came to seconds of them getting caught. She didn't get her tip that day, so he tripled it the next time out of guilt. Oh, there was next time. Some people. I worked as a dominatrix years ago, and during those years I had acquired some regular clients. This particular client worked in another province and lived in another country, but all the same was a very good client. He told me that he was separated from his wife. However, when he went back to his place in the other country, she found my dom number. Called me. She was asking me who I was and how many times I saw him and etc. It went okay besides her yelling and him pleading not to say anything. I don't even remember what happened after that, but he still remained my client after the whole ordeal. Edit. I do not engage in oral sex or intercourse with my clients. Furthermore, I remain clothed at all times. So I was the girlfriend that caught my fiance registered sign soliciting an escort. I found the texts and the link to the Craigslist ad. His reasoning was we had been having problems and he was never attracted to me. We just got along well. I left after that. He was never attracted to me. Hush. When I was pro-doming, I had a great client, one of my favorites. He was this older guy. Worked in construction. Who liked to be dressed up like a pretty girl and humiliated. This is an incredibly common fetish and easy money. For his 60th birthday, he decided he wanted to try getting pegged. That wasn't something I'd do for just anyone. But we had good rapport and the idea delighted me, so I went ahead and made him my bitch for the evening. He loved it. We had a great talk afterwards about how liberated it made him feel. How, as he got older, he wanted to try new things. And how he wished his wife could understand and be adventurous with him. This is not an unusual conversation. What is unusual is that the guy apparently told his wife, "I got a nasty email telling me to stay the hell away from her man." I never responded and never heard from him again. I hope they made it. This happened to a good friend of mine. Wife had taken their teenage daughter hiking for the entire day and he thought he'd have some company over. Apparently the daughter got sick and they came back much earlier than expected. She walked in on her husband being led around on a dog leash wearing their daughter's panties. Went as well as could be expected. They got divorced last year. Daughter went to my school, but left town after all that went down. Edit. I am a teacher and the daughter attended my school. Sorry for the confusion. I had a very close friend that was an escort for a while. She met a man and they hit it off. He would show her pictures of his wife and children. Eventually the man has the brilliant idea to stage a meeting at a bar with my friend and his wife. The plan was for my friend to seduce the wife, they would have a three-way and all the guy's dreams would come true. ITFCKing worked. Not only did it work, my friend became a mistress to them both long term and ended up nannying their children. You can't make this shit up. Edit. Okay, I guess I could make this shit up, but I'm not. Also, for the guy asking about the guy's income, I don't know. But I do know he paid for her to get braces and he paid for a few semesters at the state university. Last I heard he got her a pretty sweet car. 2. I would be lying if I never considered this as a career path for myself. Obligatory second edit to say that my highest rated comment is about my loose tie into the world of prostitution. Not a girl. But about a year ago one of the guys I was seeing paid extra to film a meeting with his phone. Apparently he had never told his wife he was into guys. And he had definitely not told her he was banging one. About a week after our meet I got a text from his number saying it was his wife and to never contact him again. Well, I was 16. And stupid on drugs, so it didn't occur to me what I was doing was bad. But the police caught us, and while my dad came to pick me up from the hotel I passed by the SO and his kids yelling at him while he's in handcuffs. So, sir, we have your underage daughter on drug charges here. Oh, and prostitution. Somewhat. Sort of. Kind of related story. I used to work the night shift in a gas station in the rough area of town, Vancouver, BC. East Hastings. Had this regular, quite distinctive fellow come in one night with a lady of the night. He was buying her all sorts of goodies. And she was kind of rolling her eyes but going along with it because free food. Right? Didn't think much of it. That kind of evening worker wasn't uncommon for our place. About a week later, I see him during the day, walking down the street in another part of town. He's with someone who appears to be his wife. He sees and recognizes me, and gets this look of terror in his eyes. Of course I didn't say anything, but it looked like he thought that I might. Not me, but a friend had been having an affair with a married guy for 9-ish months. He said he was leaving his wife, but always came up with an excuse not to do it. And one day, my friend was staying at his house when the wife showed up early from a business trip. She walked in and pulled a gun, aiming at her husband. This broke out into a huge fight scramble where I guess the guy tried to tackle her. He failed to pull her down but managed to knock the gun out of her hands. So my friend ran and picked it up and turned to see them screaming and trying to tear each other apart. When the woman saw she had the gun, she turned and begged my friend to shoot her husband, saying he was a cheating bastard, etc. My friend just stood there, bare assed, holding it. She said she was tempted, but very quickly chose to walk out. Grabbing her clothes on the way, she threw the gun in a dumpster outside their place and drove off, never seeing either of them again. Hi. Escort here. I have definitely gotten a few calls, emails from SOs. Some very angry. Some merely calm. Once, lady was very relieved that I was a pro. Nice try to get the usernames of all escort girls of Reddit. Former waitress at a strip club. A regular customer was sitting near our fireplace with a dancer on his lap. He's caressing her legs when all of a sudden I see an older lady run in and beeline straight for them. The stripper manages to jump off him, but the lady surprises the man and starts beating the shit out of him. She's cursing and screaming at him, "You mother efker, so this is where you've been." Bouncers run over and a huge fight ensues. This lady manages to grab his keys and proceeds to run toward the exit and tells him good luck getting home. He runs after her and maybe 15 minutes later walks back in with the look of defeat. Nothing a good titty dance couldn't fix. Happened to one of my close friends, but in an ironic twist. So she caught her fiancé doing the dirty deed with an escort in their own room. Here's the ironic twist. The escort is my friend's best friend, and my close friend is also an escort who decided to retire a little while before their marriage. So what does that make me? Absolutely nothing. Not an escort, but 10 plus years in the industry, and what happens is most of the time the guy lies and the woman calls and says something to the effect, "Stay away from my man." SLT. She obviously doesn't know it's a pre-arranged monetary agreement, which she would probably be even more mad. Most guys don't get caught, they have a separate phone which they leave at the office. Maybe the battery in the trunk to the phone. Or the rest of the phone at the office. I used to drive escorts around. Dude. Punctuation. If I woulda known it was this kinda party, I woulda stuck my dick in the mashed potatoes. Not an escort girl, but I was the client that got caught. I've always had this fetish I felt I couldn't tell my wife. So when my wife and daughter left for a hiking trip, I thought it would be a good time to call up an escort girl I had been talking to. She came in and I asked her to put a dog leash on me while I put on my daughter's panties. We had just gotten started when my wife and daughter came home early and caught me red pantied. It went about as you'd expect. Well played. Met with an escort. Felt so bad I told my GF. Plot twist. They were the same person. So is escort a fancy word for prostitute? I wouldn't call it fancy. But escorts are legal in all states because escorts are paid for their company. Prostitutes are illegal in most states because they are paid for sex. Now, if an escort includes sex as part of their company, no one is the wiser. Archer. Oh my god. You killed a hooker. Cyril. Escort. She was an archer. No Cyril. When they are dead they're just hookers. Not an escort or a client, but I had a pretty damn good hot dog for dinner. Once a guy was on perm. He got caught by the captain at a brothel when he wasn't allowed to got to. Sorry to be dense. What is on perm? And the captain was at the brothel just checking if any of his troops were there. My best friend is a sugar baby and a dominatrix. She had an issue with a client whose live-in girlfriend found my friend's number in his phone. She called yelling, screaming, cursing, etc. My friend laughed it off, saying, "First of all, I don't know who you are. Second, why are you mad at me? And third, I'm not the only gal." Sad note. A few months later the dude started bragging about how he was molesting the girlfriend's 14-year-old daughter in Disneyland. Friend called the crazy GF and she did nothing. Friend called the police and CPS. But it turned into them interviewing her about her life choices versus a kid being abused. Level 8 mage here. Was paid to escort some orc lady through a flooded settlement. Is this the daily wank thread? Fine by me. Bit of an opposite situation happened to me. I met this super nice pretty girl at a bar. She was ridiculously good at sex. Second best I've ever had. But when I asked her where she worked, she answered it kinda strangely. She said she works in a $U grave at and a certain area in my city in a restaurant. Which restaurant? She didn't want to say. I told my friends about this. and one suggested she might be an escort. He's quite a sex addict. So if he can't get laid for over a couple weeks by a bi girl, he'd go to an escort. Well, sure enough, he booked with a very pretty girl who looked like the girl I was dating. Agencies don't show the girls' faces. And it was her. Apparently she was having sex for money to pay her through university. She's now a high school teacher. Hookers are on Reddit too. Holy shit, who isn't on here? Dad? Why did you abandon me, man? I'm willing to forgive, but I gotta know why. You know why. One time I found the hottest escort. So I pull up right next to her and press down L3. I was once asked, do I have a girlfriend by an escort? My reply was, if I did I would not be here. I mean, a lot of married or taken people still visit escorts. There's one I visited that asked if it was okay to use lotion for a massage while we were in between rounds because it was scented and she didn't want to tip off my theoretical GF. Are the good ol' I'm more of a therapist than an escort thread. I hadn't seen it this week. They are good threads. Bront. I worked as a masseuse for a bit. I was never caught per se, but I had a good client who came in a few times and he even paid to hang out outside of the establishment. We were friendly and all of our relations were purely business related, which he was fine with, but one day I got an angry text from a girlfriend wife etc threatening to kick my ass. I noped right on out and blocked his number. Well, yeah, you're not gonna hear from him if you block his number. I have an opposite story. Was with my ex for 2 years. Got a random message one day while on my break at work from a guy twice my age telling me he had been paying for her rent in exchange for sex. She was in Hawaii for a yoga retreat at the time I got the message, so I confronted her over the phone. She denied all allegations. After hearing her deny the story, I decided to follow up with the guy to understand why he would lie about such a thing. He insisted that his story was true. So I asked the guy to show me some proof. He sends me screenshots of SZOL text messages. Snippets of his bank statements which included paying for her Hawaii trip and her rent. Then to top it off, he sends me a link to her sugardada.com profile. As soon as I saw her sugar daddy profile, I lost it. I couldn't contain my anger and had to be sent home from work. Needless to say, I ended the relationship that day, but in the long term I have to live with the herpes that she left me with. I'll never for the life of me understand why it's the escort mistress that gets blamed and not the cheating partner. I'm a dancer at a small little strip club with lots of regular customers. One day it was particularly slow, so I decided to text my favorite customer and ask if he'd come see me that night. Not out of the ordinary. About 20 minutes later he calls me. Strange, but I pick up anyway. On the phone I hear him muffled in the background and a not too happy female yelling, "Hello? Who the FCK is this? He didn't come in that night." I know of a girl who was secretly an escort posing as a massage therapist. She was murdered a couple weeks ago. Beat with a pipe and stuffed in a box. Her escort life came to light for everyone to know via social media. No one deserves to die that way, but it certainly lost her a bunch of sympathy. Her boyfriend claimed to not know about it. I doubt that's true, considering she texted every address to him that she was going to. Wait. I've seen this PRNO. I have to, but for some reason at the end the screen goes black and there's this ugly guy cry wanking.